Let's start the other tier list. This one should be a lot easier and shouldn't require nearly as much time. Because I think for the most part, you're going to agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, then you're wrong. I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules. Anyways, yeah. So this tier list in particular is going to be discussing which character is easiest to hardest on how to climb, okay? Like if you're trying to climb, if your mission is climbing, which character is going to get you to the point, is going to help you hit your goals, okay? So I'm not going to be biased. I promise I won't be biased, okay? We'll pinky promise on this. Everybody reach out real quick. Let's start. Ashe. Honestly, great synergy. I don't want to say she's an absolute win because I play a lot of Ashe and I still struggle every now and then. You can't always depend on your team. Even if you're bombing point and trying to create some progress, your team is not always going to create the space in order for that to happen. And in order for those bobs to get progress. And in order for, like, sometimes your team doesn't rotate the way that they necessarily should. Most of the time, it's pretty much a win. Like, if you're going to play a hit scan, I would recommend Ashe unless you're insanely good at Widow. If you're insanely good at Widow, I would prefer Widow personally, but I suck at Widow. So there's that. Ana. I would say quite all right. I would say quite all right. It requires a lot of skill. Her kit is pretty difficult based on the last tier list that we did, but still, you need your tanks to kind of capitalize or your DPS to capitalize on those nano boosts. She's all right. I mean, she's good. She's good. You can get really good value out of Ana, and she's one of the support players that she's one of the support characters I play the most, I would say, and I have a fairly easy time climbing. But I'd say, like, honestly, BAP just makes Ana look like a dumbass pick. Like, there's no reason to go Ana when you could just go BAP. Like, hey guys, can we go double shield? Lock BAP, win the game. It's that simple. It really is that simple. If you're a support player and you're having a hard time climbing, play Baptiste. It's actually like it's just free wins. It is free wins. Immortality field is disgusting. Okay, Bastion is a please no, sir. I don't care what content creators you guys enjoy watching in GM that are Bastion OTPs. I don't give a... All I gotta say is Bastion is such a bad pick. It requires the entire team to work around that character. And even the best Bastion players in the game, they actually don't synergize with anybody on their team at all. Like, if you watch them, they do everything on their own. They consider them like Reddit Bastions. They don't play with the team. But most of the time, you want to play with your team on Bastion, but you're pretty much cornering yourself and like, you're just gonna get, you're just gonna get bent. You're gonna get folded if you just play Bastion comps. Okay, Brig. Definitely best must play. Okay, Brig is so easy to climb on. I know you guys disagree. I know you guys think that her kit is difficult, but it really isn't. Hold hands with the other support. Follow your main tanks into the fight. Get that inspire time up. Keep it up. Do your best to keep it up. Rally is disgusting. It is literally the best support all in the game. It's pretty much a fight win. It's basically a fight win. Cassidy, great synergy, I would say. I mean, again, in a lot of like rush comps or even like anti-dive comps, Cass is just phenomenal. Whether you're running like a Cass Hanzo, Cass Torb, Cass Tracer, a Cass May, like, he has a lot of CC, applies a lot of pressure on the other team's tanks while helping your tanks win those tank duels because of that. Tank is great, offers a lot of damage, a lot of consistent damage. Definitely one of those DPS characters that you could rely on, and I would recommend learning how to play effectively. Okay, Doomfist is another please no, sir. Doom requires a lot of resources in order to give value, just as we were talking about in the previous tier list. He doesn't get enough value for those resources. You could dump just as many resources into a character like Echo, for example, if you want to double pocket an Echo. But Doomfist, to only get like one kill, one rollout kill, it just doesn't make much sense. He's one of those characters you don't want on your team. You just don't. Diva, I think Diva is fairly easy to climb on. I think so. I'm gonna put her in quite all right. I'll put her in quite all right comparatively to the other tanks that we'll discuss very, very soon. I don't think she's on that same level, but she's still a reliable pick. Like, if you want to OTP Diva, you can, and you would still climb. You would climb. Echo, best. I think she's in the best tier, S tier, 100%. She just kind of does everything. And while they nerfed hit scan fall off not too long ago, they have not reverted that decision. So Echo not only was previously able to survive a ridiculous amount, she can now survive even longer while in air. But if she's ever in a position where she's going to die, you could still make that clutch play, that clutch copy, or even just kind of like fly out, dive out. It's pretty easy to get value on Echo. Okay, Genji is another please no, sir. I don't like Genji players. I don't like Doomfist players, and I don't like Bastion players, all really for the same reason. They don't get enough value for the amount of coordination that you need to play all three of those characters. You don't get enough value. Like, yeah, you might get that filthy nano blade once every third fight, but it's not enough to be a reliable character. And I would avoid him right now. But in Overwatch 2, definitely going to be a character you want to try out. Hanzo is I put him in great synergy right now, while Poke is just as disgusting as it is, and it doesn't seem like they're making any changes to it because they're so hyper-focused on Overwatch 2 5v5. I think Hanzo, personally, I don't know if he's better or worse than Ashe, but he's definitely in that A tier. There's no way he's not. I would put him in like A+. Junkrat for me is like a can work on certain maps, like Lijiang on Temple of Anubis. Like I can kind of see on those very narrow maps why you would play Junkrat, but that's super niche and it's not one of the characters I'd want to see on most maps. Like Gibraltar, like if you're playing Junkrat in my game, the chances of you being avoided are very, very high unless you're one of the best Junkrat players of all time, but chances are you're not. Lucio is can work. Again, it's very much a can work. Like I've had great Lucio players on my team that are actively talking, but most of the time your Lucio player is going to be out of team chat, kind of tossing the match and doing his own thing and just getting funky in the back line. Lucio player is kind of like a can work. I think it works if you're really synergizing with your Reinhardt, but again, this is ranked in season 34. The likeliness of you actually being able to synergize with your tank line is super low. Like you could play a really effective Rush, but again, Rush isn't really the best right now. I guess it's super map dependent. I would personally rather not have a Lucio player on my team, and I can understand why a lot of people wouldn't. Mei. I don't really like having Mei on my team. Typically, I don't. It's kind of the same issue with Lucio where I don't feel that Mei players do a great job at synergizing with their main tank to actually execute plays and cut off space from the other team. I would say it's another can work. I don't think Mei is easy to climb on at all, but definitely easier than Bastion, Doomfist, and Genji, so I won't put her on the same level. Moira is pretty easy to climb on, honestly. I'd say quite all right. The only reason why is because you can get away with being like a DPS heavy Moira for the majority of ranks. You could probably climb all your way through like mid masters to high masters just off of DPSing alone. She's kind of gross that way. She's really gross, and you don't even have to be that good at it. It's not like Moira is super like skill heavy. Like you can get away with doing dumb shit in the back line and trading kills. Although I wouldn't recommend that, and if you do that in my games, you get avoided. But it's true. Orisa, I mean, that's a best must play. Like most of the time, whenever I'm flex queuing just for priority passes, I'll play Orisa, and I'm not afraid to play Orisa because she's almost a guaranteed win. Whether you're playing Orisa Hog, whether you're playing Orisa Sigma, both of those compositions are just insane. If you just talk and you communicate your cooldowns and you communicate when your shield's going down and or if you don't have fortify. No, I'm gonna keep Orisa up in S tier. I don't know. Like I understand she's not necessarily covering, like she's not necessarily deciding the leaderboard right now, but I'm sure it's only because people are just tired of playing her. Pharah to me is like I don't want to say please no sir, because you can still play Pharah in a lot of instances. Maybe the other team doesn't have a hit scan player, so you can kind of capitalize on that. Maybe they don't have a diva player that's gonna like stop you from taking that space or stop you from like landing that big ass barrage. I think Pharah is totally fine in some situations, obviously. Reaper, I would say, is like a can work as well. You need a team that knows how to close the distance properly because, for example, if your team is opting to run like a double shield, a poke composition, you're not going to be able to play Reaper very optimally. Like you're just not going to get the value that Reaper is meant to get, and you're going to be kind of like playing into the other team's hands. Reinhardt, again, kind of a can work. I try to avoid Reinhardt players as much as possible because it is a bit of a risk to play Reinhardt in many situations on most maps. If the other team just locks double shield or Roadhog, your shield doesn't exactly last very long, and you'll end up making a lot of bad plays, potentially pinning into the point, which you're not supposed to do. Roadhog, easy S tier. Just take a look at the leaderboards and you'll notice exactly why. Super self-sustainable. In the current meta, you're able to kind of hit those wide flanks and get value from it without really anybody punishing you. And it's hard to punish a Roadhog because nobody wants to go face-to-face with a Roadhog. So you're kind of just that big old tank that can one-shot as per usual, and you have that self-sustainability because you have because Breather is just as busted as it's always been. But yeah, and Sigma just kind of follows suit. Sigma's one of those tanks that just does everything. Has his recastable shield, has his defense matrix basically, has the CC. His ultimate is insane. I still to this day think that Sigma's ultimate is one of the best ults in the entire game. But yeah, Sojourn, the new Overwatch 2 hero. It's in terms of climbing, we actually don't really know, but I can do my best at assuming that she's not going to be very easy to climb on. I'd say she's probably in the quite all right tier because I don't think she's nearly as good as Ashe, but I think that Sojourn, it really all depends. I think they might buff her again, honestly, into the next phase of the beta. I think there's the potential that they buff her or buff her mobility. So if they decide to buff her mobility, I think that she'll be easier to climb on, but I don't think she's nearly as good as some of the other DPS that are already in the roster. Sombra is fairly difficult. I think Sombra kind of suffers from the same problem as Mei, is that you're depending on everybody to capitalize on your play, which can be really difficult to not only execute that play, but also have your entire team kind of follow suit. Symmetra, easy S tier, man. Honestly, one of my highest win rate heroes across multiple seasons, just because you could take a mediocre team and make them work together. You could take a team that otherwise would not talk to each other if it was life or death, and actually make them play together and rotate around the map together and take point together and set up on point and hold those chokes. And there's a lot of reasons that Symmetra is very good, not only on Overwatch 1, but also on Overwatch 2, because fundamentally, she just makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of maps where she's extremely good on, especially 2CP, kind of rotating from that first point to that second point, and being able to take different angles and different high grounds that you otherwise would not be able to take in like a regular standard push. Torbjorn, I think Torb is another like great synergy top tier character. I mean, he offers so much to the table. If one, doesn't require all that much skill, but two, it's a lot of anti-dive, and you're always going to be playing, even if not every single game, you're always going to be playing against those guys that force certain characters despite them not doing so well. You're going to output a lot of damage, and you're going to capitalize on those players that are just one tricks. I always think that Torb is like a super reliable flex pick. Tracer is one of those characters where it's like quite all right. It really depends on how good you are at the end of the day. It depends on how good you are, and it also depends like, no, just how good you are, period. And I suck at Tracer, so I feel like I don't and shouldn't have an opinion on this because I suck at the character. Widow, I'd say it can work, honestly. Just because you pick off like first blood doesn't mean anybody's gonna capitalize on that pick and anybody's gonna initiate the fight afterwards. I find Widow to be kind of like, I feel like you're so disengaged from the fight that you're not really helping your tanks kind of pop the off, whereas other DPS do. Yeah, I don't know what to say. She doesn't really offer all that much information outside of like her ultimate, and you still have to be really good. Yet again, it's one of those characters where you have to be really good, and only at a certain point are you going to be able to consistently play Widow. Like, she could be a reliable flex pick, especially if you're trying to win like the Widow duel, but that's not happening. Winston, in terms of climbing, again, you kind of need to rely on your supports to make sure that you're getting in and out of the fight effectively, and relying on your off tank to also help you create that space, whether that means like bubbling you into the fight or your D.Va's DMing you so you don't get slept. Hammond, in terms of climbing, I'm gonna say great synergy or A tier. There's a lot of Hammond players at top 500, but that does not mean by any means that you're going to be good at that character and you're going to play to that same level. And I would never really rely on Hammond as a one trick. I don't think one tricking is good for the game. Hammond is still a very good character. One quick look again at the leaderboards is going to tell you that. Zarya, quite all right. Again, I'd say quite all right. Double bubble is pretty reliable as long as you have good timing and good communication. And obviously Zarya, Rhine will always be that reliable rush comp. Zenyatta is in S tier. Zenyatta's in S tier with BAP. All three of these supports are just straight up S tier. I don't care what anybody says. If you just exist on Zenyatta, you get inherent value. People need to be wary of those discords. If you discord a main tank, he can't push in as easily as if you weren't on Zen. And that's the truth. Okay, moving on. Soldier 76. Is it easy to climb on Soldier? Yeah, I'd say it's pretty easy to climb on Soldier, especially because he's a standard character, doesn't require that much skill, doesn't need to depend on supports, has amazing mobility to kind of rotate around the map and rotate to high ground. I'm gonna give it an easy A tier. And Mercy, absolute bottom of the barrel. I don't even need to explain why. Everybody says it. Everybody says it. If you solo queue, Mercy's ass. That's the truth. You can't depend on anybody, and especially not some Joe Schmo on DPS that you have to pocket for an entire 20 minutes. And that's the truth. So this is my tier list on which characters are the easiest to hardest to climb. Oh, no, wait. Hardest to easiest. Sorry, my bad. To climb with in season 34 of Overwatch. If you guys enjoyed, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. God, I feel so awkward doing this. God, okay, bye.
She's saying, what you doing? Are you free tonight around about 10? I told her be busy, we gon' pick her right up where we left. I don't wanna fuck up, but I'm always caught up in a mess. But let's just have this moment, something that we will never forget. She says I